safe when we melt down the wax in your wrecking creed. Going down. Put it out for the world to see. LP and X-Men to the 10th degree. Going down. Nobody in the world is safe when we melt down the wax in your wrecking creed. Going down. Put it on.
I shot him in the ass. One of these.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Beard Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite comic book characters. Now I'm going to be including manga characters in this as well. After all, they are comic book characters and I'm not going to racially discriminate based upon which direction you read your comics in. Now, I believe that your choice of favourite comic book character says quite a lot about you and your personality, in much the same way that your choice of favourite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or Sex and the City character says quite a lot about you. Mine's Miranda. So, let's take a trip into my tortured psyche and find out who I like the best.
Number 10.
Now, Keisuke Urahara is an interesting standalone character on his own from the Bleach series. Far from the mundanity and the two-dimensional character development that makes the others within the Bleach universe, he's continually badass, and his dark past is only ever hinted at. He's sly and sarcastic and has such a character that I can really relate to. On top of these character elements, he's insanely badass as well. You eventually find out that he was banished from the Soul Society and relinquished of his command of the Scientific Division after doing experiments which were deemed too powerful and abominations even in the Soul Society. On top of this, all of Ichigo's coolness can be attributed to Urahara, considering he's the one that keeps training Ichigo, helping him to find his true potential and eventually reach Bankai. And how does he train Ichigo? Well, he essentially just puts him into deadly situations and says, "You've got to survive, otherwise you're gonna die." Add to this fact that when he needs to be serious, he's cutting and dark and straight to the point, and damn right fucking intimidating. He's mysterious and cool and styling with that badass hat and clogs combination. And that's why he's number 10.
Number 9.
Now, I own the first two books of Wormwood, and the last time I went online to see if I could actually get a copy of the third one, Calamari Rising, I found that it was horrifically expensive. This is due to the fact that the series was actually quite rare and limited in its run. And why is this?
Well, if you haven't read this series, get hold of one of the books. Beg, borrow and steal to get hold of this. Wormwood is the principal standard, tried and tested investigative noir story. A private investigator story, but with one twist. It reminds me of Hellboy in the BPRD series, but it ends up being darker and more twisted thanks to the skillful mastery of Ben Templesmith.
So, what is Wormwood?
He's a small, interdimensional, demonic worm that possesses the bodies of the dead in order to investigate and combat the forces of evil. Yeah, he's a fucking worm. Never would have guessed that right. Throughout the series, more and more of his backstory is revealed, and he's pretty damn powerful. One of the funniest parts of the series involves leprechauns in the second book, and we find out that he has a stock of bodysuits that he wears, all enchanted to prevent them from rotting.
As a result, during most of this story arc, he spends most of his time in the body of a small girl, which manages to get pulled off as both creepy, weird, and funny as fuck, all in equal measure. He's brilliant and compelling and plays the all-powerful, sarcastic character, whilst remaining compassionate and likeable.
Number 7.
Okay, so the second and last character appearing from the Bleach series on this list, Kenpachi Zaraki, is badass incarnate. There's only two ways that a member of the Soul Society can become a captain of the 12 Court Guard: achieve Bankai and be voted in as a captain, or kill a captain.
Kenpachi Zaraki is so powerful he pretty much came out of nowhere and destroyed the captain of the 11th Division. The Zanpakuto, the weapon of the Soul Reaper, has two main stages of release and a name. Kenpachi's doesn't. He doesn't need any of them. He's that hardcore, he doesn't need to increase his fighting ability. On from that, he wears an eye patch that eats away at his power, weakening him, and also wears bells in his hair. He gives every worthy opponent every chance to kill him, as he's the embodiment of the old world quest for glory and honor on the battlefield. And his hair is pretty cool too.
I mean, just look at it. Not everybody can pull off that look, but Kenny sure does.
He's the most feared opponent and captain in the Soul Society, and these are rightfully earned titles. He chose his name as well, Kenpachi, a title bestowed upon the fiercest and best warriors. His name could pretty much be Senor Badass McFlash. That's how cool he is. And why does he fight? Because he finds it fun, and all he wants to do is have a good time with a fight and have a challenge hoping for death.
This mentality is pretty much epitomised in about Book 13, where he faces off against two of the other fiercest captains on his own, allowing him to beat them within an inch of his life before suddenly going, well, this is boring, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Number 6. It's Batman.
Do I really need to elaborate?
Number 5.
Fuck you, Hugh Jackman!
Wolverine is a badass, sneering and angry with animalistic rage and unbound fury. He seeks out his past, finds out who's wronged him and destroys them. He is cool as shit as well, with his healing factor and adamantium claws and skeleton. He can pretty much survive anything you throw at him.
Fuck you, implausible and impossible adamantium bullets!
There's not really much more to say about him, because everyone knows about him anyway, so I'm just going to leave him at that.
Damn it, I want a cigar now.
Number 4.
Nicholas D. Wolfwood? Who's that?
He's a character from the series Trigon and Trigon Max. He's a sarcastic, smoking, crucifix-carrying, travelling priest on the planet Gunsmoke. Now, he's not really a priest, but part of a secret organisation called the Eye of Michael that trains warriors with the iconography of the Christian Church to use weapons that are either giant crucifixes containing Gatling guns and rocket launchers, or ridiculous pistols that are pretty much the same. He's suave and mysterious, and the massive segment that Yasuhiro Naito gives him towards the end of the Trigon Max series, as he kills him off, reveals his epic backstory.
Now, this character's brilliant, and if you don't want to find out what happens to him and you actually want to find out for yourself, then skip ahead now.
He was originally a child from an orphanage and is always talking about how he's going to go back and help the kids as their protector. It turns out that he was picked up by the shady church organisation due to his aptitude and proficiency with weapons, to train him as one of the ultimate mercenary soldiers on the planet. He excels at this and is gifted with the epic crucifix weapon he carries called the Punisher, which only the highest achieving skilled warriors of the Order are gifted with. It turns out towards the end of the series that he's still only a child, but the rigorous genetic combat therapies that the Eye of Michael have used on him have prematurely aged him to his current appearance. When he returns to the orphanage for his final showdown against the Eye of Michael, after quitting the gung-ho guns and saving Vash, the final moments of his life are sad, moving and sweet, all at the same time. He's given up his life for everyone that he loves after learning so many lessons from Vash, and the final panel with them sat together on the couch as Wolfwood enjoys his last smoke and dies in the company of his friends could rouse even the strongest men to shed a single tear. Number 3.
Right. Fuck every other reimagined Dracula character and any other character out there living his life within cartoons, video games, or other modern media with the name Alucard. There is only one Alucard, and that's Kota Hirano's Alucard from the Hellsing series.
He's the most sadistic and destructive incarnation of a vampire you've ever seen. Add the fact that in the anime and the OVA series, he's voiced by the excellent Crispin Freeman. He takes on an entirely different dimension. He just doesn't give a fuck. He's that powerful that he doesn't have to. The entire way through the series, you're left thinking, holy shit, he's just playing with everyone and this is all a game. On top of this, the fact that he's batshit crazy, no pun intended.
Also, check out his sunglasses. The epitome of cool.
Following many of the cool conventions, he fights with dual pistols and his arcane and ruinous magic powers that are only limited by the Hellsing organisation so that Alucard can be controlled. Every time you think he's defeated, he comes back even stronger and laughing at his enemies. If you combined the Joker with the Devil, this is what you'd get. He still manages to come across as sympathetic and caring though, through his relationship with Ceres Victoria, the young woman he sires. There is also an underlying sadness to the character as well, with it being clear that all he wants to do is die, and as he faces off against hordes of undead and the Vatican, he's always quick to quip, "You damn dirty dogs! Only men can kill monsters." Number 2.
Right, I love Jonan Vasquez, and he's influenced me on so many broad and different levels that I could make an entire video just about him and his art. He's influenced me in broader ways than I can explain through his comic book creations, artwork, and cartoon characters. He's left a long-lasting impression on me, and this is immediately visible through my artwork, my humour, and my use of narrative devices. And most of this is thanks to discovering Johnny the Homicidal Maniac.
Johnny is a seemingly insane serial killer character that lives in a beaten down shack in the middle of suburbia with a rabbit head and 2 styrofoam doughboys. He kills people that wrongfully judge him to be a freak or maniac, using their blood to paint a wall to keep a demonic force at bay. He eventually accidentally goes through with killing himself, only to find that when he dies he goes to heaven and then hell, whilst on the earthly realm, the beast in his wall runs free and reality decays. He had a purpose in feeding the monster and keeping it at bay and wasn't insane at all, just profound on a level that most people couldn't appreciate. He's a deep and interesting character that can only really be explored through the narrative of the comic book.
What I've said here doesn't even begin to cover the depth of interest and intrigue which this story creates. So go out and buy it and read it. Luckily for you, Slave Labor Graphics have just completely re-released the series as singles and as a new hardback compendium, so there's not really an excuse not to read this.
Number 1.
And number 1, my favourite comic book character, Deadpool. Ignore the Wolverine Origins movie, that's not Deadpool, though Ryan Reynolds does play Wade Wilson perfectly.
Deadpool, formerly Wade Wilson, is just pure genius. Wade Wilson was a mercenary picked up by Department K in Canada, the same department that made Wolverine. He was picked up for an experimental therapy to cure his cancer, which utilised Wolverine's healing factor, and as a result it's impossible to kill Deadpool. However, he's horrifically disfigured. This is a result of the healing factor constantly fighting against the terminal cancer from which Wade suffers, and as a result his body doesn't heal back to looking normal, but instead he's scarred and horrific. Despite all of this, he's a hilarious character, and insane.
Why? Babies creep me out. Goodbye. Bye.
He has two conflicting voices inside his head that add comedy and exposition to the story, whilst at the same time breaking the fourth wall. He's often played off as a fool, and everyone believes him to be an idiot. 99% of the time he's working on a higher plane of thought than all of the other characters put together, and they don't realise until it's too late, and they've fallen for his ploys and schemes.
This is best shown when he tries to join the X-Men, and also when Dark Wolverine, hires him to take out Wolverine in the origin story. His storylines are outlandish and fun, using the fourth wall breaking element of the character to mock the fact that he's in a comic book, whilst at the same time exploiting comic book conventions. However, underneath all of the fun and the comedy and gore of the character, there's an impossibly dark side that's only really seen when you get properly to grips with the character. As a point, the current storyline follows him trying to get himself killed because he's tired of living with his life being a constant cycle of trying to do good things, fucking them up, and then being hated.
He's my favourite character. Silly, stupid, fun, but impossibly dark. That's Deadpool. And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, but if you'll excuse me, I'm off to go and read some comic books.
Going down, put it out for the world to see. LP and X-Men through the 10th degree. Going down, everybody in the world to see when we knock down the wax in your record creek.
I am the Batman. I am the Bat.
I'm alive! I'm alive!
The wax in your record creek. Going down.
I shot him in the ass. One of these.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Beard Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite comic book characters. Now I'm going to be including Manga is an interesting standalone character on his own from the Bleach series. Far from the mundanity and the two-dimensional character development that makes the others within the Bleach universe, he's continually badass. And his dark past is only ever hinted at characters in this as well. After all, they are comic book characters, and I'm not going to racially discriminate based upon which direction you read your comics in. Now, I believe that your choice of favourite comic book character says quite a lot about you and your personality, in much the same way that your choice of favourite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or Sex and the City character says quite a lot about you. Mine's Miranda. So, let's take a trip into my tortured psyche and find out who I like the best.
Number 10.
Now, Kisuke Urahara.
Going down, put it out for the world to see. LP and X-Men through the 10th degree. Going down, nobody in the world to see when we knock down the wax in your record creek. Going down, put it out for the world to see. LP and X-Men through the 10th degree. Going down, nobody in the world to see when we knock down.